Welcome to Flashpoint TV. We trust that this is going to be the place where your breakthrough sparks. Spark your breakthrough here. Join us for an incredible show. It's December 1st. I want to welcome in my beautiful co-host, Mandy May. How are you, Mandy?
I'm very well. Thank you for asking. How about you?
Doing fantastic. Starting off a new month.
Yes.
Lots of things to reflect on. Holidays coming up. Lots of changes in the world that are happening at a rapid pace. So we'll touch on some of that today with our guests. Hopefully, we got a couple guests in the green room now, but we have a great show planned for you today. We're going to be hearing from Frank Hellring from Business Buzz, and he's got two things he's really passionate about: small business, number one; number two, veterans. So we're going to learn about that. But before we do, Mandy, I want to turn it back over to you to help us kick the show.
Well, I too would like to welcome everybody coming in on the live show or on the replay. The show is about you. We're always happy you're here and happy to have you engage with us. That's what's important. Give us your feedback. So we have a little ritual that we usually do to start the show off. And I think this would be a good time to begin after saying Happy December the 1st to everybody. Austin, would you like to talk to us about the hourglass?
The hourglass is our little ritual we start the show with, and it's become a very profound symbol. We're now getting requests for this hourglass.
We are.
Because it's such a powerful symbol to be in the present moment. You know, the mantra that came with the book, Flashpoint, get free, stay present, move forward. And this has become this sacred space where we can realize that this moment is all we have, you know. And as you're listening to the show, your mind might be racing. You might be thinking 1,000 thoughts of all the things that are going on in the world, things that are going on in your life, the pressures of the holidays, the pressures of life, the pressure of closing a year and starting a new year, and trying to dial into what's really important to you and live in that way. And I just want to invite you into this moment that the past is gone, right? I mean, we do this every show, and every time I do it, it reflects back to me, and I trust it will to you. That past, that grain of sand that's down there buried, I can't go back and change it. It's fallen through the glass. Certainly I can learn from it, right? I can learn from it to make this moment better as it unfolds, but I can't go change it. And then my former self was always trying to get to the future grain of sand, completely skipping over to this grain of sand, which is the most valuable thing. And the message of the hourglass with the show, with your life, is to bring you back into the present moment, to live life more fully now, immersed in life as it unfolds. So as you might drift throughout the show, bring yourself back in. You're here to get something. You're here to give something. Let's discover what that is by being in the present moment. And one last thing, Mandy, this sparked our new show, Power of Pure Presence, which is every Sunday at 10 a.m. So we'll talk more about that as well.
Yes, it did. And that's where is it? Can you see that? That's the logo for the Power of Pure Presence. So next we go on to, I call it the good old light bulb, the Edison light bulb. Look at that there. Now, I've always loved this light bulb because Austin acquired it at Menlo Park, which was the site of the original creation by Thomas Edison and his team. It's very important to note that he didn't do this alone. It was teamwork. And what I'd like to do is just talk a little bit around that and what it represents. Edison was known to say that he didn't fail 10,000 times, or whatever that amount in figure work was. He created 10,000 different ways to succeed. So success requires dedication. It requires resilience. It requires commitment to never give up. Otherwise, he wouldn't have gone through it 10,000 times to create that light bulb. So there's a good metaphor for life here. And in my show last night, actually, let's reference Earl Nightingale first, because this is what he said. Don't let the fear of the time it will take to accomplish something stand in your way of doing it. The time will pass anyway. we might just as well put that passing time to the best possible use. And that really just stood out to me. Last night in my show, cross-referencing here, I have a show on Catalyst Poetry and Discussion on a Wednesday evening at 8:45. And last night I spoke about the word legacy. And I referenced a poem where it spoke about the beauty of an elm tree and all the life and the years that it's lived, and it's seen it, people taking shade under its leaves, insects, birds landing on branches. And then it succumbed to Dutch elm's disease and died, and the tragedy of that. But what legacy did the elm tree leave? And notably, the greatest of all the many definitions on the word legacy is this: that of leaving a legacy of character and faith that changes the world for good, where we live our lives to the fullest and have meaning and purpose. This is the foundation of the mindset of a legacy leader. So with Edison and his many patents, and he had over 1,000 patents on various levels. For example, the X-ray machine. He was a marketing genius. The light bulb, which we always bring out here. He was the father of modern corporate research and development. And all of it was for the good of other people. Right. So his legacy as a leader left the mark on the hearts of people, changed the world for good. So did all his patents. And that's the lesson we need to take here for ourselves. Let everything we do, let our legacy be left as one of faith and character that changes the world for good.
Beautiful, Mandy. What a great reflection on it. And again, every time we do this, something comes up for us too, by the way. So if you're just joining, I'd love to hear where you're from. We have Overcomers Ministry here joining. We have Lucy Nelida joining. We have Jordan Thomas joining.
Lucy, Jordan.
You are in the chat. Just type in where you're from if you want to say hello.
Yeah, just say hello.
I was on the show earlier, and I always remind the listener that, yes, we're here on the spotlight. We're doing the show, but we're here to serve you. We're here to give a message for you that's going to move you. Otherwise, it doesn't matter.
Serve the good of all. That's right.
So let us know that you're there. Let us know you're there, and let us know if you want us to talk about something. If something's coming up in you, without feedback, this is just noise.
That's right.
So the feedback, right? You know, when you're playing the guitar and you're like, right, and you hear the feedback from the amp, and then what do? You go and adjust the amp. That's so we want to do that too. We always
that's how we grow, right? That's how we change and grow. So the last thing we have here now, it's normally the Liberty Bell, but I think you've got some seasonal bells.
December 1st,
so
jingle bells. And these are really nice jingle bells.
They are. They're beautiful. You should be sending them to my place for Christmas. Don't hang them from the ear. Oh, I did that on a show just a few weeks ago. I got one of the big baubles that hang on the Christmas tree, and I just hung it up.
And by the way, listen, I want you to have fun too. And you may say, Austin, but you don't know what I'm going through. That's okay. Use this as a space to be in the moment. Let the moment speak to you, right? There might be a lot of noise in your life. We know there's a lot of noise, but be in the moment. Let the bell maybe laugh at the bells, and by the way, if something does come through, you get an insightful moment, just type in the bells and I'll pull out the bells.
Wow moments, aha moments, just something occurs to you. Type bell or put in the chat room, whatever it is. And Austin loves to flex his muscles. We all know that. So get him jingling the bells.
That's right. Let me just give a shout out to Gordon D. Melville.
Gordon, my brother. Yes.
The long bearded guy. I was just on his show.
Nice.
Incredible show. It's going to be on tomorrow at 12 noon.
Awesome.
Highly recommend Gordon's show. All about mental awareness.
And a belated happy birthday to Jess, his wife, yesterday. She turned 25 again.
Perfect. We're going to get to our guest here. I'm excited. Let me just give a shout out again. So this is Pastor Christine from Canada. Thank you.
Hi, Christine. Thank you for being here. Yes.
We got bells. You know how they say bells and whistles? Well, we got the bells. We don't have any whistles.
Don't ask me to whistle.
No.
Or sing. And I won't ask that of you. Okay, so why don't we now
Yes.
bring in our first and most amazing, incredible guest,
Do it.
Frank Hellring. And when I was researching him here, the motto there was meet, collaborate, and grow. Meet, collaborate, and grow. And his mission in his business is to provide a business boost, recapture personal visions, rejuvenate operations to create a platform that showcases your interests. And even his logo, busyness, and it looks like the busyness of bees buzzing about. There's lots going on. And then there's a second part, business dollars. So the two S's become the dollar sign. So it's an integration of both. Here's the Chief Executive Officer and founder of the Hubmark LLC. He is an established executive with over 45 years of service encompassing Christian ministries, private and corporate insurance, public and philanthropic enterprises, and private equity sectors. And with his wife, Rhoda, they own another business, Allure Med Aesthetics Incorporated. So I am really excited and eager to bring Frank Hellring on to talk about his breakthrough story and how this all came about. Please welcome, give it up for Mr. Frank Hellring on Flashpoint TV.
Hey, how you doing?
Frank,
Welcome.
good to see you.
Greetings from my office at Allure Med Aesthetics in Yorba Linda, California.
Well,
Awesome.
love
Welcome.
it. Love it. And, I was looking at your hat again. I would love for you to share that because that was a cool little story you shared about your hat. You mind sharing us a little bit about that?
Yeah, very quickly. I did my show in Washington, D.C., which is where I was born and raised, in October of 2020. Very, very close in as to when we launched the show in 2020, because we wanted to do a State of the Union of small business in the heart of D.C., just the same way the president does for the State of the Union. So I flew back there, and waiting for me in the hotel was this hat and a shirt. And that was sent to me by my good friend and buddy, Jeff Spinard, founder and visionary CEO of Voice America, who passed away November 15th of last year. And there isn't a day that goes by that I don't feel that pain, because he was my mentor, he was my coach, and in many, many ways, a very, very good friend. And I cried for 2 days after I learned of his death. And I wear this hat as a memorial for him. And every single time I end my show, I hang it over the mic to remember my good friend, Jeff Spinard.
That's a catalyst. It was a catalyst for what you're doing. So we definitely want to learn about that.
Yeah.
The show that you have and how he inspired you during the pandemic.
Well, I was actually with another network. I was with Easy Way Network for over a year. For about 6 months, I co-hosted a show called CEO Savvy on that network, and we interviewed business people, far and wide. And then I got off that network, and I guess it was a couple of months that went by, and all of a sudden my phone goes off, and it was Jeff. And Jeff said, "Hey, Frank, what are you doing?" And I said, "Not too much." He said, "Well, we need a host for a very unique small business show, because we believe small business has lost its voice during the pandemic, and we think you're the guy." So that's kind of how it all began. And I think the most incredible thing that he said to me, he said, "It's time for you to spread your wings, buddy, and get out there and make it happen." So that's basically how it all came about. And we launched the show on the 5th of August of 2020. We've got over 100 shows in the can right now, as we say in the media world. And everything's based on advocacy, resources, expertise. And of course, recently I've had to add reduction of operational costs due to our inflationary economy. So that's the criteria for the guests getting on the show. And the first show, which is still in my top 10, was the Great American Restaurant Crisis, spelled CRYSIS. I just sent that out to a restaurateur here in Southern California who's going to close his doors after 30 years in business in Los Angeles, largely due to the economy we now find ourselves in. We ain't out of this yet, folks.
No,
No,
we're not.
no.
It's very similar here. There's so many, and we're just a small town of about 25,000, but so many businesses have had to close because everything was shut down, right?
Yeah,
Now, I
well,
mean,
the stats that I just gave in the U.S. were alarming. 2 shows ago, I brought them out, and I thought it was about 22% loss of brick and mortar small business in America. That number is 25%.
wow.
And the one that's really alarming is that out of the rest that we still have, only 40% are turning a profit. 40% are turning a profit. We cannot continue down that road and survive as a nation.
Well, we definitely want to get into your thoughts on solutions, but I do want to get your story because you are somebody who spent a long time in business. I think 45 years.
45, yeah.
So you have a background, but I think this is relevant because you changed your life, transitioning from business to be in the field that you're in now, to be a voice for small businesses, to be hosting a platform. And I know your listener base is far and wide, and your reach is far and wide. But I would, before we get into the solutions of maybe for small businesses, I'd love for people to get more context on your time in business, a breakthrough or something that you had that led you into what you're doing, that got you into media. Are you open to share a little bit about that?
Well, I came straight out of college. I answered a blind ad, right? I ended up going to work for a company called OCK INC on 1234 Main Street, Santa Ana. Found myself in the Kirby vacuum business. Now, you say college, right? Why would you want to sell dirt suckers? But it took me 33 demos to sell my first machine. I became a
I love it.
Hold on, we have
Bill director.
I had like 2 area distributorships, 2 offices, cola vans going all over Southern California. And then, of course, the Direct Sales Association changed the remorse laws. They took it back that if we had a machine inside of somebody's house for more than 3 days, we could get it back, but not then. They moved it to 10 days. Well, that threw us out of business because you can't have your product out there for 10 days and just somebody uses it, and now you end up with used material. So I jumped out of there, went in the insurance game. I had over a 30-year career in that. And then during that particular time, my late wife contracted cancer. She passed away after 2 years. I couldn't, bring myself to resurrect the agency because I had to become a servant husband for almost 22 months. And then basically philanthropy kind of came into my life. Ministry came into my life. I ended up becoming an adult singles pastor of my church. That's where I met my current wife of now 30 years, Rodora T. Hellring, commonly known as Rhoda. And if you take a look at Rhoda in the Bible, she's the only one who was listening during a prayer meeting. So basically, that's how that came about. And I ended up becoming a pastor. I was a Christian leader with World Vision for 4 years in Orange County, working back in that day with the Clinton administration, helping with the TANRA, the TEFRA, and the DEFRA with their welfare reform, right? Trying to re-engage the church back into the safety net. After 4 years, we tossed our towel in then. And then I went into the equities industry for 4 years. So quite frankly, guys, I got a lot of hats underneath this hat. So in a sense, when I get on the air, it's pretty tough to trip me up because I've been at the CEO level all the way down to selling dirt suckers at all points in between. So let me tell you something, try it.
I just go back. I know Mandy's going to want to share it.
5 days a week here. I know what it is to hire employees. I know what it is to buy insurance. I know what it is, not to look over your checking account and have any money to make payroll. So I'm telling you right now, this is what I am about. And that's what I try to protect when I'm on the air.
Well, I just was going to say that where you started, it says a lot about you to go through 40 through selling the Kirby's, going through 40. Well, you know what? I got an ironic story for you.
Okay.
It's really funny. So I started out in the copier business, cold calling, going up and down the street. And the irony is I cold called a Kirby vacuum cleaner distributor.
Oh.
Did he buy?
No. I moved on to bigger things, but not that it was small, but they were real small. Like they didn't have a big need. And but it was just funny. And now you're sharing 43 demos. Wow, that says a lot about you. And it sounds like that work ethic and that persistence, which we go back to the light bulb, you
Mhm.
know, the just tenacity to keep going. You had that.
Honestly, Mandy, I don't give up easily. I mean, I'm almost like a pit bull. I'm going to grab onto your leg and I'm not going to let go, especially if I believe in what I'm doing. And what I'm doing right now, I believe in with all my heart because small business has lost its voice. During the time that I was in equities, I was actually with the NFIB, National Federation of Independent Businesses. You want to know where my passion light happened with that light bulb of yours? Is I was actually on the deal team to try to put the United States Hispanic Chamber of Commerce together with the NFIB, which kind of fell apart, even though we were smoking long stogies, the Cubans, right? I learned a lot about Latinos and doing business in that realm. But the NFIB wanted an umbrella, and the USHCC, with 4.7 million Latino businesses, wanted a bridge between the two organizations. So that all fell apart. But when I left that tenure, I came back a little bit later in 2008 to find out what the heck was going on with small business, right? And found out that the NFIB, actually it was 2015. Actually, the NFIB had done a report from 2008 to 2015, and they discovered during that realm of time that we'd lost 14.2% of all of our brick and mortar business in the United States of America. We represent 85% of the hiring, 50% of the GNP. First of all, how dare you call us small? Okay. I mean, I'm out to eliminate that word in front of business. I think it's a misnomer. I think it's a mischaracterization. And I think that's the reason why we are largely marginalized, largely not taken seriously, because you got the word small in front of our name. We're not small. We are America.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So we're going to take a short break, and I want to get back to more conversation about this. If you're a small business and listening, let us know. Small brick and mortar. I'm using the word small, but to Frank's point, if you're a brick and mortar and you're dealing with some of the challenges right now, we want to get into some of the solutions, some of the philosophies that Frank has to share. Also, we have Dr. Andrea Adams Miller from the Red Carpet Connection in the green room. We're going to bring her on because this relationship with Frank was fostered by Dr. Andrea. She knows Frank well. I want her to get to chime in as well to talk about small business. And maybe we'll get into the millennial conversation as well. So we have a short video I want to share. Flashpoint is now a book. It's going to be released on December 16th. And that is in Mount Laurel, New Jersey. Thank you, Mandy, for doing that. That's the book. We've had beta readers reading the book. The formal launch is December 16th. And we're doing a documentary. Why? Because there's the book, and then there's stories that help bring the content to life. So we have a documentary. It's the second documentary. It's going to feature 4 breakthrough stories of people that, like Frank, that care, that want to make a difference in the world, because we are out there. And that's why we use platforms like this to share our story. So let me cue this video up. And when I come back, we'll get more into the conversation. We'll get Dr. Andrea Adams Miller on, and we'll just dig in. And we want to hear from you in the chat too, where you're from, what's coming through for you. So we'll see you right after this short video.
My name is Marilyn Morales. I'm here because I want to help people to heal. I want to heal. I want to be different. I want to be more productive. And I think anybody that comes here is going to find that same thing, their breakthrough.
Welcome back. Let's get Frank back on with us. And I just want to share that if you are interested in finding out about the book launch, the documentary premiere, we have an easy way for you to connect. Easy. Who likes easy? Simple. We're going to stream a portion of it on YouTube. All you got to do is click. If you want to be in the Zoom, if you're a part of the Flashpoint community, you want to be in the Zoom, there's an option where you're going to be able to be in the Zoom, and you can attend in person. If you want to have an experience, an event, you want to get the book, you want to see the documentary, you want to meet the people, you want to be there. Proximity is power. So that's on December 16th. And we may have a little holiday flair for that as well. So stay tuned for that. So Mandy, let's get our guest back on here, Mr. Frank Hellring. Welcome back, Frank. And we're going to get Dr. Andrea Adams-Miller on with us now. There she is. Welcome, Dr. Andrea Adams-Miller from the Red Carpet Connection. I know you've been in the green room listening. I want to go to you first just to get you to chime in on what you've heard so far, let the world know who you are, and let's keep the conversation moving.
Well, yes. Well, I'm so glad to be here with Frank. I have known him for, gosh, has it been 7 years? But we really formed this great friendship and relationship over this last 6 months to 8 months. And he's just been amazing. I really love how he really cares about his audience, and he gets really excited about things. And he's a researcher. He may not consider himself one, but he dives deep into different topics and really brings a different light to radio and to television like today. And allows people to discover a new flashpoint in their lives. So I'm really glad that you were able to have him on today, and nice to see you again, Mandy.
You too. Namaste.
And thank you, Andrea, for becoming my publicist. So
yeah,
the relationship we're building.
Yeah, so I love that. I love that when I can have my clients meet each other. So I'm Austin's publicist and Frank's publicist. And when they can come together, we can co-reference each other's mission and outreach so that they can reach more people and really allow people a different perspective to what they can have happen in their life.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. And is there anything you heard here that you didn't know before you jumped on? Was there anything new that you heard that through the conversation we've had so far?
Well, not necessarily new, but just a reminder of how deep that we can really go when we're talking with both of you, because you guys both have this beautiful knowledge of corporate and business agreements and the things that often I hear people wanting to shy away from. And sometimes they completely leave it, like they shut the doors and walk away from their past, where you two embrace your past and figure out how to bring it into the future and still get what you want so that you manifest the future to look how you want so that you're the CEO of your own lives.
Beautiful. Let's get into the conversation. If you know somebody that has a brick and mortar business of any type, share this. And I just want to give a shout out to Coleman here, who I actually met Coleman a couple times, and she says, you know me? And then finally we connected, and she's going to share it. So we appreciate that, because we know, and I have some insights too, but I want to go to Frank on what his thoughts are around the state of it is. We kind of talked about that, but what can we do? What steps can we take to really foster this grassroots businesses that have been there? You know, some of these businesses could be 100 years old or more, or 5 years old. You know, so what do we do, Frank? What do we do to keep that mentality, that grassroots thing going?
Well, first of all, if you look at my show description and you know what we basically tried to put some understanding out in the small business community, is that the pandemic wasn't the beginning of this nonsense. It goes all the way back to 2008, okay, and bring it forward when we had that massive crash, that happened in the United States, which we're still reeling from. But on the 11th of March, what happened across this country was that we were sent home to be behind closed doors. Now, what happened in that vein right there is that you shut us in, but you shut us out from our customers. Okay. Well, let me tell you something. Cash is king in the small business community. So when you shut us away from our customer base, what's that going to do? So the end result is we have 25% loss as far as brick and mortar, and we now have only 40% of small businesses cutting a profit right now in this country. What's the solution? I'll tell you what the solution is. Who prospered during the pandemic? The predators, your Amazons, your eBays, your Alibabas, your Costcos, your Walmarts. They all turned massive profits during the pandemic. And you know where they got those? You're siphoning off customers and profits out of the hands of small businesses. In fact, I was in front of about 30 or 40 small businesses about 2 weeks ago. I looked them dead in the eyes and I said, let me ask you a question. Can you compete with Amazon? Guess what the answer was? No. I said, whoa, time out. Yes, you can. Because the one thing that you can do that they cannot do is touch that customer. It's called relationship. You've got to get more engaged back in your community. You've got to stop withdrawing and you've got to get aggressive. You got to get proactive. And more importantly, you've got to look at that customer database as if it doesn't belong to you. If you take a look at the 3 watchwords in my show, it says unity, relationship, and the law of reciprocity.
Community, relationship, and the law of reciprocity.
Our former president uttered those words, reciprocity, every single time he talked about small business. And if you want an example of that, do you remember the miracle on 34th Street with Edmund Gwen and Natalie Wood? Do you remember what happened when Santa Claus started sending people to other stores? All of a sudden, Macy's customer base went nuts in the fact that they started thanking Macy's that they were getting value from coming to Macy's and actually being referred to other stores where they could actually get the product at a decent price, referred by Macy's. That got up into the corporate realm of Macy's, and RH Macy went, this is the most ridiculous merchandising platform I've ever seen in my lifetime. But look at all the calls. The mayor, the governor, everybody's calling me up, thanking Macy's. Last but not least, what ends up happening? Unbelievable. Gimbel's, major competitor of Macy's, starts getting Macy's customers coming across the street, buying from Gimbel's, and he finds out they're being referred by Macy's. And all of a sudden, he holds a corporate meeting and he goes, what's going on here? Why didn't you guys think about this? You know what this makes me look like? A profit-tearing, money-grubbing enterprise. He said, we have a new policy. If we haven't got what the customer wants, send them back to Macy's. That is the law of reciprocity. And what you ended up happening is that Gimbel's and Macy's were in the same space, talking to each other. They hadn't talked in years. And who was in the middle? A guy like me, a catalyst, Santa Claus.
Santa Claus. There.
Yes, Santa Claus, Frank.
Who needed a X-ray machine, right? Well, the doctor took care of him, right? Remember that?
Yeah.
Remember that, Mandy? Right?
Yes.
And Macy's looks down and go, oh, an X-ray machine. I don't think I gave you enough. Let me make, and all of a sudden Gimbel's goes, I'll pay the difference. And then Macy's goes, oh, buy it through the store and get a 10% discount. Gimbel's goes, I can get it at cost. That's the law. So
let's do this, Frank, because I love this. I want to give our audience a chance. Type in the chat if you understand the law of reciprocity, and then type in the chat if you can recall a time where this was at play for you, because I really am feeling this in that if you're a small business, the one thing that you have is the relationship. And what can we do to really bring more value to these relationships where we can be eye to eye? We can provide more value through personal relationship by really understanding not only what you need, but what maybe is best for you, and present it in a different light. And I know firsthand, I experienced this in my town. There's people that pay more for a product because they have the personal touch. They could go online and order, but they pay more because of the relationship, the culture, and everything else. And I feel like, this is really a great call and opportunity for businesses today.
And that's why Frank's first word there was communication. And I said that right at the beginning. Without communication, everything is dead in the water. You don't have a relationship unless you've got the communication. And I think just to back Frank up 100% here, where small businesses are concerned, it's the onus is on each and every one of us to support those small businesses and veer away from the big corporations that are reaping the rewards off of this pandemic.
Mandy, it's right here. smartphone.
Yeah.
You and I talked about this, Austin, when you were on my show, right? That
Yes.
millennials, Gen Xers, Zers live in this world.
Mhm.
And they're the new customers of the next generation of small businesses that are going to come forward, right?
Yeah.
Well, if your business is not on that smartphone, get ready to put up an out of business sign in a few years, because that's where they're going to buy from. So virtuality and moving more into this space, like what I do in Voice America, it all comes across the internet. It all comes across the smartphone. Our radio platform is outstripping terrestrial radio right now, like you cannot believe, because they're dying because the advertisers aren't getting bang for their buck anymore. So they're dropping off like flies. So you've got this situation now
So
where
true.
the smartphone is going to rule the roost. So if you're a small business and you're not on that smartphone, find a way to get there. And if you don't know how to get there, get in touch with me, because I'll put you in touch with somebody who will take you there.
Awesome. Awesome.
I love your passion, and I
Yes.
trust this is going to reach somebody to do something different, to go out
That's
there
all it
and
takes,
stay
doing
true.
something different. Yeah.
Let's give Ivy here a shout out. She actually remembers gimbals, so let's give her some credit for.
Yeah. Well, it's like you teach, right? Do something
Yeah.
different to get a different result. That's what you
Yeah.
learned at the age of 9, wasn't it?
Yep.
Austin?
Yes, when I was shining shoes, right, in the
Yeah.
bars. Dr. Andrea, just want to give you a chance to chime in here as well.
Well, I've obviously been nodding and grinning the whole time. And being a multitasker, hearing you guys talk about the different ways that we reach out to people and the things that we do, I'm in the middle of actually co-hosting 2 really large summits that will, the average attendees are about 10,000. But when you have people who are like publicists like me, the average tends to be more to 30 to 50,000 attendees. So while you guys were talking, I was making notes about some of the things I wanted to add to those platforms when we're putting those out, because these are the people that we're attracting in the world, people who are finding a new way of showing up and participating, which actually is based, it cracks me up because in the early 2000s, one of my dissertation papers was about the use and benefit. There was 11 different existential factors I learned about being on online support groups. Well, then during COVID, when people were forced, as this is their only way to communicate, is online through Zoom and Facebook and all these other platforms of social media, I was noticing that the 11 existential factors that I talked about in my dissertation were happening in real life. So who would have ever known that what I thought about and what I recognized years ago was happening again due to a pandemic or an epidemic, however you want to word it. And it's been really interesting because now it is our new way of life, where people before said you couldn't form real relationships like this. Well, actually you can. Each one of you I met for the first time virtually, and then we have all had the pleasure of being able to meet each other. But I've had relationships and done business with people all over the world that I have never physically met, ever. And
Right.
have known them for
Internet.
years. Yeah. I mean, I have 15-year relationships, and those people are more closer to me than anybody in the world. And I've never, ever laid hands on them. So it's just a way that we can do business that's so amazing. And so I love that you guys get excited about it and want to be able to create a catalyst for them to see how they can incorporate different forms of media and still use traditional foundations. Sometimes that's a fun to go back around a little bit because people aren't used to getting mail. So getting mail is still fun, and especially if it's not junk mail, and then being able to reach them this way. So I love it. I'm just excited. It makes me giggle.
Yeah, it's actually interesting. I want to, this is a off the cuff kind of a thing, but I'm planning my high school reunion, and you think like, oh yeah, you just tell everybody you're having a reunion, right? And they show up, but no, you have to end up marketing it. So we did social media, we did postcards, we did conversation. We did like everything that you would do if you have a relationship, but more. We used all the mediums to get in touch with people. It's a little microcosm. But Mandy, do you have any questions for Frank? I know you always bring some great questions, so I just want to give you a chance to.
Well, just going back over everything you've shared with us here today on your whole history and your various platforms that you've diversed into to create the results that you've created and you're continuing to bring awareness to. You spoke about being a pastor and Christian ministries. How does your faith factor into all of it? Composite all of it. How does your faith factor into
First of all, Jesus Christ is the chairman of the board of HubMart LLC. You know, I happen to be the CEO, but he's the chairman of the board, and I don't get anything done, you know, without my faith, Mandy. I mean, I think for a large part right now, this nation's suffering largely because faith is not at the forefront as it was in the past. And the sad thing is we've now become a nation basically of negotiation as a, you know, and I think it's hurt. I think it's hurt the business community dramatically in that vein because now we have a thing that we're dealing with called corruption, for crying out loud. I mean,
that's right.
we just had midterms, and all of a sudden, you know, the person that's going to be in charge in the coming year is all kinds of investigations going on the president of the United States. I don't want to see that happen in my country, but that's exactly what's going on right now. And it's going to turn around, and it's going to affect everybody in this nation, and including the small business community. And on that note, Austin, do you mind if I talked about that show that I did a few weeks back about veterans?
Yeah, we're gonna get to that for sure. If you want to, let's just jump on it now, and we'll go.
Also, a little bit of housekeeping. I've got a landing page that is for this veteran show. Can you put that up for me, please?
Yeah, I'll take care of that for sure.
Veteranmurders.com. Okay. Well, in a nutshell, I did a show about 8 weeks ago on whistleblowersofamerica.org, and if you looked at, you know, and go look at them, they are very instrumental inside the Beltway of getting major legislation passed. Okay. There was just a major law passed, you know, where our veterans were breathing fumes from burning trash in Iraq during the Iraq War, and everybody was ignoring it. Well, Whistleblowers was very instrumental in getting that passed into law. And then another one was Lieutenant Colonel that basically got ostracized by the VA because he came up with a better format of PTSD treatment. He was actually a psychologist in the military, and they basically tried to drive him out of town. That didn't happen. Now that's going to become law, new treatment plan for the VA. And I also had the guy on my show. But during that time, we covered a live event of whistleblowers. They had a major event down in Pensacola, and 3 guest speakers I interviewed. The second one was Bruce Sackman, who wrote a book called Murder Behind the Curtain. This guy is an IG, Inspector General, top investigator, has been with the government for 33 years, and he uncovered this in 2005, and his realm was from West Virginia all the way up to Maine. By the time they ended up digging into the background of what they were getting fed by doctors and legitimate nurses and doctors who were observing this happen in the hospital, they uncovered hundreds of veterans being murdered in their beds, literally being murdered in their beds. And so when I found out from Bruce Sackman, when I was interviewing him, he had never been put in front of a mic of any media in this country, I said, enough. I'm not going to let the buck pass me. And we turned around and put the show together, which you will find on that landing page. The replay is right there of what we did. And we're going to continue to push this out because there doesn't need to be another veteran murdered in their beds in this country.
That is shocking, and I just want to encourage everybody to go to that webpage there. It's at the bottom, www.veteranmurders.com. It sounds
it's horrific.
Horrific.
And totally unacceptable.
And kudos for you for taking a stand on it.
Yes.
This is a very controversial topic. And, you know, and I'm proud of Frank for willing to bring it up because it creates conversation. So whether you believe in it or whether you think it's just controversy or a made up story, I suggest you go and listen to it and hear it. So that way you're making your decision based on what other people have to say that maybe you haven't heard before. And so it just allows people that no matter where you're at, you're hearing news and information from different sources, and especially a source that's never been allowed to be shared.
Yeah, and our goal is to rise. At first, I thought there's 28 million veterans in this country. They need to find out about this, right? And what's interesting is that book's been up since 2019 on Amazon. It's only sold 3,000 copies. Do you see where this is getting squelched? I mean, that's amazing to me. Every veteran out of there ought to be reading that book. So that's another reason why we did it. But now I'm of the opinion we need to raise public awareness, public opinion on this, because you lost a mom, you lost a dad, you lost a husband, you lost a wife, you lost a sister, a brother, a niece, a cousin. Somebody got murdered in that bed. Public is affected. And here's the other thing. Taxpayers are paying the salaries of these people that are murdering our warriors who picked up a weapon and went to war and defended our freedoms. And I'm telling you something right now, we need to be pushing this on Congress at some pretty high levels, because it's going to take top-down move to stop this.
So we want to encourage you to go to the webpage there, check it out for yourself, do some investigation for yourself, and follow Frank in this mission. We have about 14 minutes left in the show. Dr. Andrea, you had mentioned something about publicity that you wanted to share.
Yeah,
we're going to hear from our. We got some stuff in the chat too. We're going to get to that next.
Yeah, certainly. Well, I wanted to mention about publicity because you were talking about reaching out to people from the past, and that what to me was very poignant to think about how when you're reaching out to people, whether you're looking for people to hear about Frank's story and the veterans murders, or Austin and Flashpoint and the power of pure presence, when you're hearing these different things, and those of you who are listening, think, what is your message that you want to portray to other people? Really be thinking about your audience. So let's use the example of reaching back to people for a high school reunion. Not everybody wants to come. So maybe in your messaging, you're saying, hey, do you remember high school? And there are some people that you loved, and then some people you hated, and some people you kind of just want to know who they are and what they're doing. And you kind of want to be a voyeur and look in and see who they've become or what they've done. And maybe you don't even want to come because you think somebody's there that you never liked or was mean to you, or you just hated them. Well, maybe they're different. Are you different? Are you the same person? Do you show up as the same as you were in high school? Or would you love people to see you in the light of who you are now and forget whatever wrongs you might have done in the past, whether they were real or imagined? And by giving people that opportunity, it allows them to see for themselves. Because, when I hear like my parents talk about their reunions, or my grandmother was talking about her reunion, a couple of years ago and stuff, and why people would go and wouldn't go. Or maybe you don't think you're successful enough. Well, maybe you are successful enough.
Yeah.
And you don't need to go to show up to show who you've become. It's not showing up with your resume and your tail feathers all, peacocked out, but giving people a chance to show up and connect heart and soul, instead of trying to sell yourself or coming to think of what do you have for gain. Maybe you come to give instead of receive.
So true.
So it's being open-minded and open-hearted.
Yeah, so true. I mean, that's a great way to put it. And now I'm just laughing because it does evoke something. It does evoke something. And my point was that we think just announcing something is enough, and it's not. And with all of our messages, it's something that you talk about over and over again, because it gives people time to process it. Like even when we talk about veteransmurders.com, I don't expect everybody to run there and automatically be beating Frank's drum. But if you hear it and you go to the site and you're like, maybe there's something to this, and then maybe you start to dig on your own, well, then that's a good thing, because then you're researching on your own and it starts to move the needle. And so these messages, and that's why it's important for your message. We don't just say it once, we say it over and over again. We look at it from different ways. That's the message of I think I talk about this in the book, actually.
Yeah, Austin, you're also, when you're on my show, you impressed me as an advocate, right, for young people.
Yes.
Gen Xers and Zers, getting
yes.
Our arms around what it might be like to get in their own small business, And if you're listening to my voice out there right now, if you are part of those generations, understand one thing. Nobody actually put you in a situation of entitlement. You place yourself there because you accept somebody else's value of you. And let me tell you something right now. It takes capital R, capital I, capital S, capital K risk in order to take that step and move out of their world and get into your world of being a small business owner. And let me tell you something. There's a ton of resources out there, even just on my show. I've got a ton of resources that you could go to that and listen to all these incredible experts. So if you're wrestling right now of thinking of whether or not you're going to have a job or you're going to have a vision that you're going to take to the moon, like a Microsoft or a FedEx or something like that, these all started with vision. And then they had a mechanism, and then they had an end game, and they put it together, and that's it. And that's what you need.
I love it, Frank. Let me ring the bells on that. And you know the other thing that I was going to say, and just maybe a garage. Maybe there was maybe there was a garage involved. We're going to have you back again to talk about the millennial conversation, the transfer of wealth and millennials and Gen Z, where they are looking forward. And
we could have a whole show on that one. You know, I also have a thought with your looking glass. I was thinking of the Wizard of Oz, right? When she turned it over and goes, "It isn't long, my pretty ears, isn't long." But the other side is that, you know, my side of what you're doing with that hourglass is the microwave. Yeah, I'm going to turn 71 in May. Every time I sit in front of the microwave, I'm counting that 15 seconds off, warming my coffee, and all of a sudden it dawned on me, that's 15 seconds I can't get back.
Wow. That's insight. That is incredibly insightful. And it's interesting. I won't go off on a tangent here, but I'm going back through Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning, and these micro moments that come up that we just glance over. The sun going through and that's power of pure presence. The sun coming through the leaves, a momentary moment of presence that pulls you out of whatever your mind is telling you. It's powerful. Yep. And that's really powerful.
If I could get it in, I'm launching a new show platform next year. It's going to be hosted by Julie Muse. She's going to be bringing on women of power, okay? Women's businesses, because nobody's really addressing that in the marketplace right now. Women-owned companies make up about 20% of the entire small business community, and they're the fastest growing. So we're going to put up a platform that's really going to cater to the women's side of the equation, and the cross referral between our two show platforms is going to be crazy good.
That's
and Julie is Peter Vexelman's business partner.
Wonderful. So, and we had Peter on the show.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and this is all Dr. Andrea, the Red Carpet Connections, making connection, the keyword connection. That's how all this happens. Yeah. And one relationship leads to another. I do want to honor our guests here in the chat. So let's hang in there and let's see if we can grab some highlights here that we can talk about. And I know there was something on reciprocity here from Ivy. I wanted to grab this. Ivy Perez, she's in our community. Yes, the law of reciprocity begins with communication and relationships with people, especially in this day and age of social media.
She gets it.
She gets it. So echoing what we're talking about. She loves the bells. So there are the bells, jingle bells. We got
silver bells, silver bells.
One of my favorite songs.
There you go. Keep going.
I forget the rest of the lyrics without doing it all. Silver bells, silver bells
in the city.
I know, it's like I didn't know when I stopped, I'm like, wait, I don't know. It's one of those, your mind automatically knows it. When you sing songs that you know all the lyrics to, it's almost like you're in a hypnotic state, like to be able to know what the words are when you stop and they say what they are. It's like our minds don't know what they are because that we have that automatic trigger.
So Ivy said, wow, that's awful. But you know what? Hold on, time out. That's the power of context. That was from the other thing, talking about vegetable. You see the power of context? Right? If I would have pulled that up after you saw that, I did that on purpose. But anyway.
I love that.
Actually, it's a solution to the small business communities contained in the Bible. Would you guys like to hear it?
Please.
Proverbs 11:24 says, there is one who generously scatters abroad and yet increases all the more. And there's one who withholds what is justly due, but it results only in want and poverty. The key is sharing. That's the key.
That reminds me of a great quote. I say this all the time. What you give, you keep forever. What you keep, you lose forever.
That's right.
Very powerful. We got Gallivanting, Duchess DJ Love with us today. And let's see what else we got. We got risk for success. We were just talking about that.
Yep.
Dream, vision, and action.
And I just
I
want to
like
remind
your
people
audience.
while you're pulling those up is, to me, I own 3 businesses. And all of those businesses are about relationships. So sometimes it's challenging for people because they think, you do publicity and sponsorship and publishing, and then you have a relationship business, and you have a mental mind shift business in the subconscious connection business. So how can you have 3 different things? Because they're different. And to me, they're all the same. And they're all based on human capital. To me, which is the greatest asset that you could ever hold, is the ability to have people to reach out to should ever you need anything in the world. And that is gold. That's where our gold is.
That's a human capital. I love that. And that's where our gold is.
Mandy, I love your picking on my logo and noticing my B, because everything that I say on my show is we're going to put more buzz into your business.
Mandy, can you hear him?
Could you hear me, Mandy?
Oh, I can hear you now. Yes.
Okay, I said I loved how you pulled from my logo, my brand spanking new logo, the B, because everything that I say on my show is we are going to put more buzz into your business.
Exactly. It was perfect. And I'm a bee lover, right? We've got lots of beehives around where I live, and I often have in the summer a bee will land on me. Just very, very briefly, when my father passed away, and I went down to the lake, and I was in this deep state of grief, and I'm just sitting in this little gazebo overlooking the lake and thinking about my father, and this bumblebee literally came and landed on my hand and sat there for about an hour, and I was just mesmerized with this bee. And that's what really struck me when I saw that bee buzzing around, and bee business for dollars. It's just perfect. It's relatable to the human spirit, right?
Well, bees, they're loyal, they're industrious, they're
Yes.
builders, and what they are is absolutely subservient to the queen, right? So, I mean, hello?
Royal! They saw the queen bee sitting there and landed on me.
I actually have one bee speaking into a microphone, and the Business Watch, which is my live events side of my platform where I actually do live events and show up, as a personality, the bee's holding a magnifying glass because they're taking a hard look at what's going on.
Love that. Absolutely.
So we got a couple minutes. You want to share that Proverbs again? What is the Proverbs again?
Proverbs 11:24. And it reads, there is one who generously scatters abroad and yet increases all the more. And there's one who withholds what is justly due, but it results only in want and poverty. What small business needs to do is unclench that fist around CRM database, open it up, and allow it to be shared amongst other businesses in their communities, and watch what happens.
That is amazing. And I'll just share this. When I was in the sales world, I would run into these buying groups, and what they would do, and it's basically what we're speaking to now in some sense, is that they would all pool together and have collective buying power as opposed to buying in one similar entity.
Yep.
And there are ways that we can collaborate more. And I think collaboration is the key to the future as well. Who can you collaborate? Who is in line with your message? We literally have to wrap up. We will have Frank on back again. This has been an incredible episode. Go back, connect with Frank and his website, businessbuzz.com. We shared it earlier, but we are at the final minute. So I'm just going to say goodbye to everyone. Thank you so much for being here. And we'll be back next week with another great show of Flashpoint TV. Spark your breakthrough. Here, spark it now. 2022, a better 2023 starts in 2022. Make sure you connect with us. God bless everyone. Have a great day.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Frank. Thanks, Andrea.